What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back to Omar BYT, ladies and gentlemen. And welcome, guys, to another weekly show of the Barcelona News Roundup, ladies and gentlemen, with my boy Kules Podcast. What is going on, bro?
What is up, Omar? What is up? Always a pleasure to be on the stream. Super excited to talk about some Barcelona transfer news. But thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. I'm always happy for you to join me on this show, guys. And make sure you guys go subscribe to Kule's podcast, guys. As you guys know, someone who's always a regular on the channel, guys. And listen, man, there's a lot of news, obviously coming out of the club. Earlier today, I actually did like an early news roundup this morning, talking about, the renewals of Hansi Flick and Rafinha, which are all two great news coming out of the club right now. Very quickly, what did you think? What do you think about the fact that we'll be able to tie these two players who have been, completely integral to how good our season have been this season?
No, it's absolutely key. You've seen the words from the president, from Deco, from Hansi Flick. The intent right now is to keep the core and try to replicate the sensations and feelings that we've had this season and translate that to the next season. And as you mentioned, two of the pillars that have allowed Barcelona to have this success has been, the introduction of Hansi Flick, the impact that he's able to have on the squad, absolutely revolutionizing the way that we play and, how the players are performing. And as well, Rafinha, Rafinha, you've seen him with more confidence, just a whole new level. And Barcelona tying both of them down, it's absolutely huge for next season.
No, absolutely, 100%. But yeah, I mean, listen. Obviously, that's not the only news. The season technically hasn't ended yet, right? We still have a game on Sunday
Yeah.
against Athletic Bilbao. I mean, listen. Let's be real, right? It's very hard for us to be already optimistic. Pick ourselves up, about that game since we
Yeah.
already know, the league is ours. I mean, you even saw it in this past week, right? When we played against Villarreal. I think we played relatively okay, but you could tell like the players were already, they'd already one man was already out of the game. That's why we lost in the end.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
No, no, no. I
And
mean,
like,
they were completely like I would say like checked out. As much as they, the like Hansi Flick would have loved to win that game. You said it like the players that were out partying like the night before. Like it's not necessarily the best environment to work. And we've done the hard work. We were champions and everything. I think these last two games that were remaining is just simply of just playing them. It's not necessarily performing well or anything like that. Just saying, hey, who can show up, who can be an added bonus. What La Masia player can get his debut? What rotations can we make necessarily? But yeah, these games are just I would say meaningless in some sense.
yeah, basically meaningless. Let's be real, right? I mean, obviously, we always watch Barca games, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna lie. Like, what's the point? Like, the only thing that's in jeopardy really is the Athletic Bilbao's Champions League hopes, right?
Yeah.
We that's basically, and with the way that the fact that Barcelona, we basically packed up our season, we'll probably lose that game, and it really doesn't matter at this point. But yeah, big up to my guy John Williams, and big up to you, and big up to every single one of you guys who are already in the building, guys. But look, like I mentioned, there's obviously a lot of news coming out, transfer news coming out. I've been seeing, some of the, you've been very active with the
Hmm.
news, right? As far as like, the links to the club, right? The players that have been linked, like the Rashfords. We've already talked about Rashford in the past.
Yeah.
We've talked about Luis Diaz in the past. Here's the thing, right? This week, I've been hearing a lot. I know you have too, right? I've been hearing so much talk from our sporting director, Deco, right?
No.
And I'm not gonna lie, right? Now, I've made it very adamantly clear when I think of this guy. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of his, right? I don't think he's what we don't really. I didn't think like I didn't really see the hype in it because let's be real, right? When we had Armani, we knew Armani was a sporting director. Let's be real. Before Deco became our sporting director, we didn't know where this guy came from. Like I think he was Deco's, sorry, Rafinha's agent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, he went from being Rafinha's agent, and then all of a sudden now he's the sporting director of the whole club for Barcelona Football Club. It was I didn't get it, right? And last season, the way we were dealing with the transfer window, right? The fact that we only signed one player A lot of us were frustrated because we thought that we needed a few players in the squad. All right. And in the end, we only ended up bringing in only one player. We didn't suffer for it in the end, right? We had a great season, but he has been saying a lot of things about next season. And we all know because we watch Barcelona every week. As good as we've been this season, there is still a lot of holes in this team. You understand what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of areas that need fixing ASAP. There are players that need to leave, and then there are players that need to be brought in. First of all, before I even get into the whole Luis Diaz talk, right? The one thing that worried me about what Deco was saying was how, I don't know, people were saying that he might have been gaslighting. Listen, at the end of the day, I don't know what's the point of gaslighting if you're the sporting director. Like, it's your job to tell the fans what we should expect, right? Rather than gaslighting us. Basically, he was sitting there saying, Barcelona are looking at fullbacks, we're not looking at defenders, we're not looking at midfielders. Bro, I heard that, and in my head, I'm like, was this guy watching Barcelona this season? Like, he must have not been watching games because there's no way you can see what you've seen this season and not say that we need to go out and be active in the summer, right? But let me tell you this now. My This guy's on thin ice with me. Like, I am not. This guy hasn't won me over. It's not like Hansi Flick. Hansi Flick has won me over. Laporta, I trust him. This guy hasn't done anything for me to believe in anything he's doing, right? And all of this distance he's been saying, it doesn't fill guys like me with any confidence to what we should going to see next season. Because the plan next season should be to improve from what we've had this season, right? We cannot just sit here and rest on our laurels like we did in 2023, right? Because you saw what happened in the 23-24 season when we weren't active. So we need to make sure we learn our lessons and go out in the transfer window and get the players that we need. But I don't know about you, Elias, because you've been talking about the news, right? But
Yeah.
tell me, what do you think of like what Deco has been saying?
Well, I'm not going to be so critical towards Deco because looking at the Barcelona circumstance, we're not in a situation where we can go and say, hey, we have sufficient funds to reinforce multiple positions. I don't think that that's the case. I think if, hey, in a perfect situation, Barcelona do go after a goalkeeper, we do go after fullbacks, we do get another midfielder, we do get a 9, and we get a left winger. So we have reinforcements in all of these positions. But I think what Deco's trying to say, hey, you know what? With Gerard Martin and Alejandro Balde, we have enough. With Koundé and Eric Garcia, you can throw in Hector Fort in there. We have enough in the fullbacks. In the midfield, you have Gavi, you have Pedri, you have Frankie de Jong, you have Marc Casado, Marc Bernal, Fermin Lopez, Dani Olmo. Those are 8 players who can play in that midfield. You have enough there. So that's why I'm not going to be critical or saying, hey, Deco, you should be signing midfielders and fullbacks necessarily. In regards to that goalkeeper position, I'm thinking, that's not the right words I would be saying because I don't know. I already know at the level that Ter Stegen is at, and I know what Szczesny can give us, but Barcelona, in my eyes, and specifically looking at what Deco is saying, he wants a left winger. He's prioritizing that left winger and looking at the necessities of the squad. I do see that. I can understand why they would view that as like the number one priority. I think if we have a left winger, a natural left winger, I think that can add some huge impact. But at the same time, you're thinking, maybe some reinforcements in some other areas could be key as well. But, it's just simply a lack of funds necessarily to go out into the market and buy everyone necessarily.
I mean, that's the thing. See, I'm well aware, and I think a lot of Barca fans, we are well aware to understand that, yes, we can go out and just go out and buy all the players that we need. I think that definitely we need to be smart in the transfer window. And look, I'm going to be very honest. When it comes to what he said about the midfield, I don't even necessarily disagree with that. I think our midfield is fine, right? I think if we were going to look for a midfielder, it would potentially just be maybe a competition for Dani Olmo because he's injured all the time. But really, that's really stretching it. You understand what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So midfield, I'm not really worried about the midfield at all. The fullbacks is the one that worries me because at the end of the day, Jules Koundé has been incredible this season, and I give him all the credit in the world, right? But if you look at the way Hansi Flick's system works, what he wants from his fullbacks, right? With all due respect to Koundé can't go forward. You understand what I mean, right? Defensively, rock.
But in that sense, in regards to the fullbacks, I so you have one player. Obviously, ideal scenario, you have two attacking fullbacks, but you have Jules Koundé, the more defensive. You have Balde, the more offensive. You give him out the entire
Mm,
left wing, the right hand side. You have Lamine Yamal, and so a counter. You don't necessarily need a Balde on that right hand side.
mm.
Necessarily, but you also have Eric Garcia there. We've seen how Eric Garcia has been performing in that right back position, and so Barcelona, they're looking at it and saying, "Hey, you know what? We don't need to go out into the market. Obviously, we had the luxury. We could go out, but we don't need to. So that's why I don't see that fullback as a priority. And if you do go after a fullback, who do you go for? Like the
I
fullbacks
mean,
into the market. Like
yeah.
you want to have a player who could say, "Hey, you're going to be spending big money on a player who can give competition to Kunde, to Balde," and I just don't see that happening.
I don't think we should need to spend big money. Like, I'm gonna be very honest. It's like even in the goalkeeper situation, right? You just mentioned it. Like, instead of trying to go out and spend crazy amounts of money on like other goalkeepers, right? I look at even goalkeepers like João Garcia at Espanyol. I know people are gonna say, "Oh, it's their rivals." Listen, it is what it is. We've given them Martin Braithwaite in the past, so clearly moving from Barcelona to Espanyol is not as hard as many people make it seem like it is, right? But he's a good option. I mean, I've been hearing people talk about the Mallorca goalkeeper. Even though I've been
Yeah.
very impressed with him when we played them, he absolutely like we won the game. But dude, we
Wow.
would have won by more if it wasn't for that guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the game against Real Madrid, he cooked. Like they lost that game, but dude, no one can blame him. He was doing his job, right? So I wouldn't mind him either. I've been seeing people also talking about is this Shivania, the goalkeeper for Lille. He's the one that people have been telling me quite a lot, right? And maybe him, right? If it's not going to be too expensive, obviously, right? And this is where it ties to my next point, but I'm going to get to that point, right? Because here's why I think that we need to go and buy fullbacks. It's because, honestly, right? I'm not saying we need to buy two fullbacks, which, by the way, let's be real, that's what I want. But I'm realistic enough to say, well, listen, I can sit there and say, you must go and get two fullbacks in both areas, and it has to be done. You understand what I mean, right? I'm more comfortable with the fact that, okay, fine, I would say, okay, all right, well, listen, you don't need to go get a left back because Alejandro Balde, he's what Hansi Flick wants, right? He's the profile, right? So
Yep.
I can excuse not getting a left back, right? The right back, I think that the way Hansi Flick plays, he wants both of his fullbacks to always go forward. You understand what I mean, right? And I don't know. We've only seen Eric Garcia around the end of the season, and he's been doing quite well in that position, right? So we haven't seen enough of him. Who knows? Maybe he's good at going forward. Maybe he's good at crossing the ball. Maybe he can do all of that. But if he can't, we need to make sure we get a fullback who can be able to do those attacking runs. You understand what I mean, right? Get it into the box, right? That's what I think. But I'll say this: you just talked about the winger. Now here's the thing: I don't deny at all that we need a left winger. I have said this, right? You and I, we've said this. I've said this on Barca News Roundup before, right? The positions I think we need to fix are fullbacks, our left wing, right? And maybe our goalkeeper. Because you were talking about keeper. I was like, you know what? Maybe we should go and get a new keeper, right? My problem is the player that we're looking at. Now, before I even get started, here's Vandy. Vandy is saying, yo, what is up with you and this Diaz hate? Which left winger provides more balance than him when he's playing off Rafinha and Lamine? Here's the thing. I'm not against this guy moving to our club. That's not the problem. I'm not against the move, right? I am against the amount we are trying to spend. Because here's the thing, Elias. You just said it. We don't have the money to be going around spending willy nilly. You understand what I'm saying, right? And the talk that has been coming out, apparently we are supposedly potentially about to spend 85. I'm like, yo, that's got to be a rumor. There is no way Barcelona actually considering putting 85 million when respectfully we could get less for Nico Williams. We would get less for Ademola Lookman. You understand what I mean, right? And those guys, they can do that kind of job for less money. Because let's be real, our transfer budget is not going to be huge, Elias. We know our transfer budget is not going to be huge. We're not going to be spending splashing cash like that. All right? So that is my issue with this whole thing. And the fact that the club is so obsessed with Diaz is what worries me the most. Because the club is obsessed with Luis Diaz. They really want Luis Diaz to be, they believe that Luis Diaz is the key. Now, if he's the key, I'm sorry, I'm not 85 million, man. That is setting us backwards if we actually spend that amount of money. But what do you think? I mean, am I overreacting on this?
Well, I do see where you're coming from. I think, Barcelona. I'm actually, when you think about it, I think a Luis Diaz at Barcelona would actually be a very good signing. But I agree with what a lot of people are saying. Just I think that price tag, I think it's exaggerated. I think, first paying 85 million for Luis Diaz, I think that's a mistake. And secondly, I don't think that Barcelona they're going to be even able to be paying that amount of money. I think, that's just the price that Liverpool they're asking, and Barcelona they're going to be looking to pay, the same amount that they would be paying for Nico Williams necessarily. And so I see the price tag more around like 55 to 65 million necessarily for a Luis Diaz, which then I still think you're overpaying a little bit, because I'd be willing
Exactly,
to pay
me too.
half. I'd be willing to pay half of that 85. But I think that's just, part of the negotiations where Liverpool, they're saying, hey, the price tag is 85 million, match that. Barcelona, they're going to come in and say, hey, we can't match that. Take 60, take 65. And I think that's where the negotiations are going to be able to have. And then the negotiations are going to be had. And the impact that he can give you, a player who's very similar to that of Rafinha, it has a lot of upside potential.
I mean, yeah, and that's honestly the way I look at it, right? But I'm just, you know what it is. This is why I keep bringing it back to Deco, because at the end of the day, I'll tell you this right now, right? The difference for me, from what I've seen so far, and listen, I'm not gonna be too judgmental on Deco, because at the start of the season, I was just like, no, Deco is not the guy, this and this and this. However, I kind of looked at how we went with like the whole Danny Olmo situation during the middle of the
Hmm.
season, right? How
Yeah.
we just got unregistered, with Bob
Hmm.
Victor and all of these stuff. And I was like, okay, so looking at this now, maybe this is the reason why we couldn't go out in the transfer window and actually buy the players we need. I excuse that, right? But here's the thing: this season, after we've done the whole VIP sales and everything, our budget is actually better than it was last season. It's gonna be different.
Yeah.
You understand
Yeah.
what I mean? We're gonna have a better leeway to be able to sign players if we are smart, which is the important thing, Elias. Being smart with the money. You understand what I mean, right? We need to be smart with the money, and this is why I'm saying, for me, when I look at this current Barcelona team, the best part, the good news about this Barca team is that what we've seen this season has shown that we don't really need that much like rebuilding. You understand what I mean, right? There's no
No, we
amount,
don't.
like we don't need a plethora of players. We actually just need to add a few players in the little holes that are in the team. Like we look at this season, so all right, what are the positions that have cost us in moments this season? Okay, we need a new keeper. We definitely need a new keeper. Like I said it to you a few days ago. Like, you were done with Stegen before I was done with Stegen when he came back from injury. Like look at the game, bro. Look at the game against flipping Villarreal. He
You're
made a
preaching
ton of
to the
mistakes.
choir. You're preaching to the choir. Ever since like 2019, I've been saying, get this guy out. So
Brother, this guy, bro, when he made that mistake against Villarreal, I said,
uh,
brother. And you know what the worst thing is? This is how you know he's under pressure, right? Did you see what Nagelsmann said? Well, when Nagelsmann started
he's gonna
talking,
be
that's
the
how
number
I knew.
one. Yeah, he's gonna be the number one.
When he said that, that was the moment I said, "Oh shit, he is feeling the pressure," because they must see that his time in the top level is running out, so they're trying to support him, right? To remind everyone, no, 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 don't worry, he's still good. He's just coming back from injury, this and this and this. No, 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 no. Because here's the thing, bro. Before his injury, he was moving like this. He's just come back and just continue, bro. Like seriously, that's
Oh,
the worst thing for me. So yeah, we need to definitely move on from him for sure, right? I don't. I mean, listen. I would love for us to sign a goalkeeper, but I don't think we will. That's the thing, Elias. I don't think we are gonna sign a keeper.
I think it's going to be dependent on whether Espanyol they get relegated. If they lose this weekend necessarily, and I think it's Las Palmas, if they win, then you have a situation where buying Joan Garcia is only 15 million. I think for 15 million, I think Barcelona they activate that buy option. If Espanyol don't get relegated, then I think it becomes much more difficult. And then yeah. I don't think Barcelona they're gonna have the funds to go after a Luis Diaz and a Joan Garcia necessarily. I was looking at the summer that Barcelona they could potentially have, and it's two signings, and that's Marcus Rashford and Joan Garcia. Simple as that. You know, I think that's just what Barcelona they have. If we have sales necessarily of Araujo, I think then we can have different discussions. But then it's, are we going to be filling up that center back spot? What happens, if we move or bring someone on from the academy? But I don't see a big summer coming from Barcelona.
I mean, you just mentioned it, right? As well as we're talking about all of these players that could come in, we saw earlier this week, right? All of the talk of like the players who have been said that their time is up, right? Some of the key players that I've heard, obviously, Ansu. People are talking about Paul Victor. Some people talk about Pablo Torre. And this is, by the way, this is not just transfer listed. This is players who could also go out on loan. You understand what I mean, right? I think Ansu will be leaving on a club completely. I think Paul Victor will probably go on loan. We know that teams like Betis have been looking at him, right? I think a move to Betis on loan will not be bad, right? We've seen how Betis have been good at like rehabilitating players, right? And giving players opportunities, right? And Abde, you remember Abde, he did well over there and he's doing well over there. So Pablo Torre, he was out on loan at Girona last season, right? Didn't really get a lot of game over there because they were doing so well. But I think maybe he might be given another loan deal because I don't think Hansi Flick really trust him, right?
I think it's more of necessarily just the competition is so high that you don't really have space for Paulo Torre, because whenever Paulo Torre he has been involved, he's 40 million for Luis Diaz is insulting. The man played the seal final, and I mean, hey, we're not gonna be like. When you look at those stats necessarily, and you say 40, 50 million, I think that's a fair price. Look at Ferran. Look at Ferran necessarily. I think his output has been much, much better. And teams there bringing in offer 50 million.
Bro,
so
Aston Villa are willing to give us 42.5. And I remember telling people, yo, take the money and run. And you had people in the chat telling me, Omar, what are you talking about? Haven't you seen how... Brother, I said, sell this guy and bring in Jonathan David on a free.
Yeah, I mean, like if they're gonna be if teams are gonna be offering 40, 50 million for Ferran after the season that Ferran has had, I'm sorry, for a player such as Luis Diaz, you're gonna be paying what, half of that necessarily. Ferran, if he's gonna be leaving after the season that he just had, you're looking at 70, 80 million for someone who can come off the bench and give that impact. You can't really find a player that good out in the market, for that specific role necessarily. But I lost my train of thought. But
no, you guys.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I was talking about again. But the Paulo Torre. Yeah. So in regards to Paulo Torre, the competition is super high, and so I don't think it's necessarily of, hey, Hansi Flick doesn't trust him, but you have Dani Olmo, you have Gavi, and you have Fermin Lopez all ahead of you. So when you have those players in front of you, it's going to be very difficult to get minutes. And so I think the best option for Paulo Torre is, hey, go out, get a loan deal, get some minutes. I think you need football in order to develop your game. You're at that age where you need to be playing regular football. You're not, 19, 17, 18. You're in your 20s. You're in your early 20s. You want to be playing football, and I think that's the best option. And so I definitely see him as one of the players leaving this summer.
Yeah, he needs to. I think he needs to go. I mean, listen, here's the thing. This is how I know, like, he's not part of Hansi Flick's plans, because when we've seen him this season, he's actually been doing well. That's what, it's funny. Do you remember, like, in January, right, when he had, like, that amount of game time, like, he was getting a lot of game time, and he was, like, cooking. And we remember we were saying, yo, this guy could actually be the perfect, like, replacement for Dani Olmo when he comes back from injury. We can rotate with him in games like this. But for some reason, Hansi Flick just went, like, after, I think it was, like, in the game against Betis, where he played and he was up in the Copa del Rey, right? He played against Betis and he was cooking. And just like that, this guy just went off the face of the earth. He never played him, right? And even when he was given a few opportunities here and there, he still played well. He was bringing a lot of energy in the midfield. And I was like, yo, I don't know why Hansi Flick doesn't trust this guy. But I'm going to be very, very honest with you. I think that yes, for his sake, he needs to go out on loan or just go out completely out of the club. We'll see. You just mentioned it, Araujo, another one that he's probably the one that's gonna get us some money if we're gonna get some money out this season, right? Him because right? We know he's one of those players who I don't know, man. This season, I feel like what we've seen from him this season has made him dispensable, which is something I didn't think I would say. But I feel like this season is shown that he's not that untouchable guy that he was
No.
like a season or two ago, right? When we were just sitting there saying, yeah, our center backs and this. Christensen, he's another one that they put in on the list, but I would not sell him. I mean, what do you think, Elias, since he's come back from injury? Like, what would you say from what you've seen from him?
In regards to Christensen, I think he's been very, very solid. I think when you look at his ability and his technical ability on the ball, you look at him and say, "Hey, this is an absolutely fantastic center back," and he's super reliable. Rarely makes a mistake. The concerns in regards to Christensen are, can we keep him fit? It's not with Daniel Olmo necessarily, where you know the quality that he can give you, but can he be out there consistently? We saw, all of last season necessarily him being subbed out early, him being having to rest matches and everything because of those, small little injuries in his ankle that kept him out for certain matches. And when you are playing so many games, you need everyone to be available. The best availability is being able to play. It's just as simple as that. And so, if Christensen does leave, I think it's gonna be a mistake. Just because looking at the quality he can give you, and as well, just the experience he can give you in that back line. But that would be 40, 50 million. Coming into the books clean. But the other center back is Araujo, who obviously he's had some tough moments. I think the Barcelona fan base, they've basically written him off, which I understand. I understand, but at the same time, I feel bad for him because he was at Barcelona during the worst period of times. You're thinking about
Yeah,
those years after
yeah,
COVID, necessarily, where he was absolutely the best in the back line, and it's such a shame,
100%.
when Barcelona they're looking to come up on the come up, and we finally have a good team. That's when he's going to be, a lot of
And
Barcelona
that
fans
is
are
what
going to be
makes it
wanting to kick
sad
them.
because I believed in him. I'm
No,
gonna be very honest. I'm so disappointed because I thought you just mentioned it. Like we look like we're in the up and up, and we've always said that if we go to that point where we're at the up and up, I think Araujo will be considered one of the best center backs in the world. You understand what I mean? Like, because he will continue to get better as years go by. Like you've seen what people always say, right? When Kobashi came in, we were sitting there saying Kobashi and Araujo will be the future of our center backs, right? Like they will be the ones
yeah,
who will win us all the
no,
big trophies, like in the next 10 years, right? That is our center back partnership. You got the ball playing defender against the no nonsense defender. You understand what I mean, right? You had
hmm
PK and Puyol of this generation, right? You had PK who was the ball playing center back, and then you had Puyol who also was a ball playing center back, but he was more of his aggressivity. You know what I mean, right? Never say die, lion mentality, right? And he showed a lot of that, but I don't know, man. I feel like with what's happened to Araujo, for me, Elias is, I think, as talented as he is, he has a very, very low mentality. You understand what I mean? I feel like he, I don't know how to put it, man. Like, I feel like he's very easy to rattle. Like, he's clearly someone who can take criticism because the way for me, how he's went from being one of the best center backs, right? And because of one moment in the Champions League, right? You make a mistake, you get sent off, and then that's the sending off is not even the worst thing, right? It's what happens after you get sent off. Yes, you get criticized, rightfully so, right? Because you are an experienced center back that should know better in games like this, where you are our best center back. You're supposed to be the guy that's supposed to be galvanizing the defense, like one making the least mistakes in the defense, right?
yeah,
So when you make mistakes, we look at you, we say, do better. This is on you. Take this L because you cost us this moment. You should have known better. But the way he reacted to it, and ever since then, you've seen, bro, that's he's something has shaken in him, right? He's like he's afraid to make mistakes now. You understand what I'm saying? He's so
no,
afraid to get stuck in. You understand what I mean, right? Do the things that he used to do before, right? The bravery is gone. It's like he's worried he's gonna make a mistake and gonna get criticized. Like that's not the mentality. Like, you make mistakes, you own up to it, you move on, right? But always stay where you are.
Well, I mean, the Barcelona fan base, they absolutely cooked him, and
Yeah, they did.
they did, and of course, it's perfectly fine to criticize a player for, making a mistake like that, but some Barcelona fans, they went overboard, which I think you should never do,
No, no.
and obviously when you receive and you play at Barcelona, it's such a high pressure situation where you're asked to perform every single time you're out there on the pitch. It's such a mentally taxing job that if you're not at it, you're gonna have these moments necessarily. And I think right now, I think confidence is low. I think after this last Inter tie and last year against PSG, I think it's just that the relationship between Barcelona, well, the Barcelona fan base and Araujo, I think that's relatively broken. I think we're gonna need to see, Araujo return to his best level in order to recover any good sensations, and I think that's gonna be very difficult because even though I think Araujo is fantastic in transition, I don't think he's particularly suited to what Hansi Flick wants to do in this team. I think maybe in a more defensive side, even in Inter necessarily, I think he'd be absolutely fantastic. You'd be talking about one of the best center backs in the world under that
Yeah.
system,
In
but
City, I think he would cook.
exactly, but in a system that basically exposes his weaknesses, you're not going to see the best Araujo, and that's where you're thinking, hey, could a sale happen? But as I've said, not everyone wants to stay at Barcelona after the season that we've just had. It's going to be very difficult to move him on.
No, 100%. 100%. I mean, look, I'm gonna be very honest. I think you just mentioned it. Inter is probably like the perfect move for him if he was to leave, because I think that the thing with Araujo is he's more of a, like you mentioned, he's not a typical Barca defender. You understand what I mean, right? He's not really a ball playing center back. He's not the guy,
Yep.
like, you can tell, like, this guy, he's not good with his feet. He's not good. His passing range is not that good, right? You can see that, right? But at the end of the day, he just needs to. For me, I just feel like he needs to focus on himself. Or if the club want him to leave, at the end of the day, try to get a best move for yourself. I don't think he should go to the Premier League. I think if he goes to the Premier League, bro, he's gonna get exposed over there. You understand what I mean, right? I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
City for a club like Inter. I feel like for a club like Inter, bro, if he goes to Inter, he's bro. I'm telling you now, if he goes there, he'll probably become one of the best centre backs in the world, bro. Because
Yeah.
over there,
Yeah.
like the way they are defensively, it would work perfectly for him. A
Yeah,
hundred
yeah, yeah.
percent.
And I mean, you see Araujo, you'd have some Barcelona fans go and say, "Hey, look, we said it, Araujo. It was a mistake selling him." But sometimes the environment it plays a huge factor.
100%. Yep.
If Barcelona played football a little bit differently, then you could see the best of Araujo. But under Hansi Flick with that high line, it's going to be difficult. But at the same time, Araujo, he's coming back from injuries, hasn't been regularly consistent. But I think this summer is going to be very huge. Looking at the offers that are going to be coming in,
Hmm.
is there a lucrative offer that Araujo is potentially going to say, hey, let me see what they offer, what could happen. But the summer is going to be big for Araujo. It's going to be big. He's going to be tempted.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about that, but another one we need to talk about is Ansu. Now, that's actually funny. We need to talk about Ansu because we've actually seen in the like last 24 hours that
Yeah.
AS Monaco have
Hmm.
actually shown like huge interest in Ansu Fati,
Yeah.
right? And they want to bring him in. And I ask you what you think about it, I'm gonna be very honest. I think this is a great deal for him
Yeah.
because think about the club he's going to, right?
Yeah.
Monaco are a club that really trust in the youth, right? Look at the players that they have in their team. Like you even think about even players that have recently, like I know Dyer is going there. Like you remember Minamino went there and
Yeah.
he's done well since he's been there, right? I think that a player of Ansu Fati's level, because this is the thing, I personally still believe that Ansu Fati has a lot to offer in this current Barca team. I'm sorry, not in this Barca team, but I think he has a lot to offer for his career. I think injuries have really pegged him back. And since he's come back from injury, he's come to a Barcelona team that is currently doing well. Everything is working well. Hansi Flick has basically found his team, right? And basically doesn't trust him enough because of his injury record, right? And the fact that when he gives him a chance, he hasn't really shown him much, right? I think that Ansu Fati, if he goes to a club like Monaco, they will take their time with him, right? They will give him a lot of time to go back to his best. And look, I will say this now: if he can if he can be injury free for a season or two, I'm telling you now, Elias, I think we could see Ansu Fati return to his best again. I don't think it's going to be world class, but I think you will see a resurgence in his career, right? You will see him go back to the person, because I still think that the person is still there. I just think that he just lost something when he had all those injuries.
Yeah.
But what do you think about this move?
I think this is absolutely fantastic for Ansu Fati. If I'm Ansu Fati, I jump on this offer. You're going to a league that is necessarily going to be under the radar. The only big team in there is PSG. You're not going to be going to necessarily the Premier League where everyone is watching you. You're not going to be staying in La Liga. Monaco, they've been great developing talents. They play attacking football. It's a league that I think would suit his attributes. I think it's a very physical league, which you could say he could struggle necessarily, but looking at the environment that Monaco they do offer, I would take up that offer. I think what Ansu Fati needs right now is to play games, is to have minutes under his belt, and thus I don't think that he's going to have a future at Barcelona. And if he does have a future at Barcelona, it's going to be because he took moves in order to have regular game time necessarily.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And listen, at the end of the day, look, good luck to him, because I don't think like he's one of those people. It's almost 100% certain now. He's done. Like
Yeah.
Hansi Flick has no trust in him, right? And look, at the end of the day, if we get, let me ask you this, right? If we were to get rid of all these players that we just mentioned, right? Like
Yeah.
like Ansu, you have Araujo, Christensen if he does leave, right? Pablo Torre, Paul Victor. Like, do you think out of like those five is if we sell, not loan, but sell those players, right? Do you think how much do you think we can be able to get from like all of those deals?
I'm looking around 80 million around there for everyone. I'm looking at Araujo.
Because
You're thinking about like
Araujo will probably be the most expensive one to
yeah,
leave, right?
Araujo would be around 65. Ansu Fati, he'd probably be leaving on a free, something like that. You're looking at Paulo Torre, he'd be leaving on a loan. Christensen, you could be looking at. I'd be selling. I wouldn't be selling Christensen under 50
10 to
million.
15.
Yeah, I would be selling Christensen nothing under 50. I think he's been absolutely
Under
solid
50.
when
Okay.
yeah. When he's been available, and so you're looking at the options. I'm thinking, hey, you can be bringing in 80 million with those sales, and on top of that, the wages that would be removed. Barcelona they would have a lot of room to maneuver, but we know that not everyone is going to want to go after the season that we've had. They want to say, hey, Barcelona winning trophies. I want to be part of this squad and win those trophies.
I mean, you say that, but the way Hansi Flick be moving, these players are getting frustrated. Like I haven't even mentioned Hector Fort. He's another one who looks like he could leave, because let's be real, right?
Yeah.
And I know you'll be happy to see the back of him, me as well. I'm gonna be very honest. I think guys like Ansu, for them, they're just done. They're just like, nah, man. Like we're never gonna go back to the players that we were under him. You understand what I mean, right?
Yeah.
We're not gonna get back to our best. Araujo, maybe he might believe that maybe he could get back to his best. Christensen, I think when he's returned, he's played so well. Maybe he might be like, well, listen, I'm gonna stay next season, a fifth season. Maybe I might start doing well. You understand what I mean, right?
Mhm.
Right. So that is a very definite possibility. But this is the last thing I want to say before we actually get out of here, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we've seen the new contracts, but there's another one that is in progress right now, right? It hasn't started yet, but we know a lot of things have been coming out of the club, right? It's Lamine
Yeah.
Yamal, right? Now, Lamine Yamal yesterday was seen out with his agent, Jorge Mendes. I think they were talking about the potential new contract. I think Jorge Mendes has already started talking to the club already, and basically the club kind of laid out maybe the fact that they want to offer him a new deal, and I think basically Yamal is just going to be making his demands of what he wants and all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
I've been hearing a lot of things. Yeah, out of these Barcelona content creators who make news, right? They're
Yeah.
saying, some of them are saying that Yamal wants to be the highest paid player at the club and all of
Yeah.
this stuff. I don't personally believe it. I personally don't. Right? I don't think he has demanded to be the highest paid player. Obviously, he wants to increase. Like there's nothing wrong with that. You play so well, you want to be paid to the level that you're playing to, right? And to be fair, Jorge Mendes even said, he said, listen, Barca fans, don't worry, this guy has no intentions of leaving. Right? He's definitely staying. Next season, we know he's going to be wearing the number 10 next season. So
Yeah.
he's definitely has a lot of like plans for himself. You understand what I mean, right? Like clearly he's got plans. He wants to wear that number 10 jersey, but he also wants to, get a new contract. Like, what do you think about this deal potentially, right? And all these rumors that have been coming out, right? With him being potentially the highest paid player and all this stuff.
Well, I think that's more of Jorge Mendes talking and not necessarily Lamine Yamal, because obviously as the agent you're going to be wanting to get the best for your client, necessarily for your player. And I think it would be making a mistake giving Ansu Fati, Lamine Yamal, that contract necessarily where he is the highest paid player, because one, you could be making the same mistake that you did with Ansu Fati, necessarily a player who, let's say, in 2 or 3 years can just drop off the face of the earth. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Lamine Yamal is a completely different case. But at the same time, if you do make Lamine Yamal the highest paid player in the world, then in a year or two, then you're gonna have to add to that, and then he'd only be what, 19, 20, 21. That'd be
Yeah,
ridiculous. He'd be 21
absolutely.
and demanding 40 million. You'd be right back to, let's say, Bartomeu or wages similar to that of Messi, where you're paying 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 million euros, and you absolutely demolish your wage structure. And I think Lamine Yamal, I think Barcelona, they're smart. He's going to be among those highest wage earners, but not going to be the highest. The highest is Lewandowski along Frankie de Jong. These are players in two completely different,
And
parts of it.
you see how we're doing with De Jong
Yeah,
and
yeah,
how we're
exactly.
doing with Lewandowski. So,
Exactly. Lewandowski, hey, you came from Bayern, you came from Barcelona, for Barcelona in that period of time. It's completely understandable
right.
why you're going to be the highest paid
And you were
player.
one of the best. And you were one of the best strikers in the world when came to
Exactly,
us.
exactly. But also the repertoire. He was 33 or on there, like 34. As one of the best strikers of this generation, it's understandable why you'd be earning that wage. You're not going to be staying here for a decade plus. You're going to be staying here for a couple of years, and so. I think in Barcelona they're managing this well. They're going to be renewing his contract, making sure that there are bonuses in there, incentives. He's going to be well paid, because you obviously want to keep a player of his talent, but at the same time not making the mistake and giving him too much too early, because then you're I would say in a bad spiral where in a couple of years you could be he could be asking, or his agent, anywhere between 30 to 50 million.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that would be ridiculous. I'm gonna be very honest. We can't do that. You understand what I mean, right? Like at the end of the day, I here's the thing. Here's the thing. The only way I see Yamal reminding all this stuff is if his dad gets in his ear, because I don't think Yamal himself, right? He's too bothered about like getting being the highest people. Like, bro, like you're 17 with all due respect. Like, what are you gonna do with all of that money, brother? You feel me, right?
Yeah,
With
yeah. I
all
mean,
due respect.
you're not even an adult. You can like spend it even. You know.
Like, bro, that's what I'm winning, right? This guy is not old enough to even spend all this money that he's making right now, right? So for me, I'm just like, listen, man, keep your head down. You're playing so well, and the thing with Yamal is, I've said it before, you are rising every year. For me, I think that you should focus on your football right now. Make sure that you continue to increase your stocks, get
Yeah.
better every single year, become the best player in the world, win the Ballon d'Or, go win the World Cup, win the Champions League, cement yourself as one of the greatest of this generation. Then guess what? When you're in your early 20s, guess what? Then you can go to the basketball board and say, yeah, this is what I want.
Yeah.
They can't say nothing.
And what's crazy is you say early 20s. That's like 5 years. That's in 5 years where you could say, hey, in what's it called? In 2 years he turns 20. In 3 years he's 21. In four he's 22. So it's not like necessarily where this is like one of his final contracts. No, he literally just started his career and he has so much left to do. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly that it's much more of, let's say, hey, Lamine Yamal, you've had a fantastic eruption into the global scene. You become
Mhm.
the best player in the world. Let's now have consistency in there. We're gonna have a salary that reflects your ability, but let's not go and go overblown or anything like that.
100%, 100%. But yeah, man, listen, man, big up to every single one of you guys who have been here, guys. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Guys, man, tell the people what is coming up on your channel this week.
Yeah,
What you've got planned. Obviously, the season is about to end, so there's
yeah.
going to be a lot of news, transfer news,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of stuff coming out of the club. Let the people know, man, where they can
Yeah.
find you.
Yeah. So, guys, with the season wrapping up, the watch alongs they are going to be slowing down. Barcelona, they're not going to be involved. Maybe I do some watch alongs depending on the Club World Cup, but mostly towards the big games. But what's mostly going to be happening on the channel is transfer videos. Transfer videos as the summer approaches. That's going to be the number one thing. New rumors are going to be coming up basically every hour necessarily, and so I will be having videos on the channel in which I talk about that. But I will also be having the final watch along for the season this weekend against Atletico. Let's see if we are able to have a La Masia debut necessarily. Let's see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's see what happens. But that's on the agenda as of right now. Everything at Kool-Aid Podcast, guys.
Yeah, make sure you guys go subscribe to Cooler Podcast, guys. You can see the link to his channel is right there, guys. I'm sorry. The title of his channel is right there. Just search Cooler Podcast, guys, and you'll find all of the news. As you guys can see, guys, every time I'm doing the Barca News Roundups, I always have him here. He's always bringing a lot of insights on these streams, guys. So if you guys want to see more of him, make sure you guys go subscribe to his channel, guys. Go show him some love, man. But yeah, man, big up to every single one of you guys. It says Florian verse still hurts me a little because we are. Yeah, listen, man. Florian verse. Yeah, a lot of these Bayern fans and other football fans are just losing their minds over this Florian verse thing. Florian verse is actually a form of. It's actually a Barcelona fan. Funny enough,
Wow.
he was actually a childhood Barcelona fan. So yeah, he's doing his thing right now. But all right. Anyways, yeah, let me see. I'm gonna redirect. Let's see. Let's redirect you guys to. Yeah, you know what? Should I redirect you guys to Jacob? No, 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 no. I think Jacob's doing something else. Let me see. All right. I'm gonna redirect you all to. Damn. All right, I'll redirect you guys to Touchline. Yeah, what the hell? Just redirect you guys to Touchline. All right, touchline facts, guys. We all know what that fraud has been through, man. That guy's been pissing. He's been talking all kinds of shit, man. His dead ass club just lost to Tottenham. Make sure you guys go and hold that on his channel, man. Big up to every single one of you guys, man. Make sure you guys smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. And this has been the Omar Elias show, ladies and gentlemen. Big up to every single one of you guys. Peace. Take care.